It's LinkedIn, Hour of Empower. Today, the keyword is sharing. Uh, Also, chat's open. Feel free to jump in. I'm seeing that we're having so much response that we can hardly keep up with it. So, really, the co hosts are here to address whatever questions, thoughts, direction you may have. And Harvey really well and Christy even better. So it's great to have both of them on. If it's Friday, you can expect Christy and Harvey. With that said, Christy, why don't you share a little bit about your thoughts on sharing and, you know, what we can do to help the audience get a better definition or different definitions.
Well, when we hear sharing, we hear caring. Sharing is caring. I mean,
Mm,
that's the whole thing. So, um, and then when I was thinking about sharing, I think as a child, we share our toys. And then the more we grow up, we share our experiences, our knowledge. Um, Girlfriends share clothes, guys share, sports equipment. So sharing is paying it forward, helping other people um, understand that they can have what you can have, what you have by sharing. My Harvey, I haven't had enough coffee today, so
no, you're doing
Sorry,
great. Harvey?
I didn't want to interrupt you there. It was good
I'll
stuff.
go for it.
I completely agree with everything you just said there. First of all, got to say hello to Matt as well. Hi, Matt. How are you doing? Nice little UK flags, like that touch. Nice. No, I think sharing is a fantastic subject. I think if we all share more, and it doesn't matter what we're sharing, I think that word can be put before lots of other words. If we share our time, or if we share our kindness, or even if we share our problems, it doesn't have to go towards a negative or a positive thing. They say a problem shared is a problem halved. So I think sharing is just such a positive thing to do. It's what we're doing all here today. There's so many definitions of it. I'm just looking forward to finding out how other people view the word, how they use it in their life. But yeah, I mean, I think, it sort of sits there at the top for me as a word. Networking, sharing things. You know, even if you share a post, I think this is something that we should all do more. It takes no time at all to share a post. I try and do it as often as I can. Um, and it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take any time. So I think a great way to support people is to share what it is that they're interested in and what they're doing. Um, yeah, I think I'm really excited to be hearing more about the word sharing.
Well,
Can I go flip back?
sure,
Because my
sure.
brain just all of a sudden just started to. The one thing about sharing is it's sharing without wanting to get something back. That's the way I look at it. So those were my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think when you say sharing now that we're kind of getting into it, and the deeper you get into a word, the richer it can be, is usually what follows when you say sharing, which is the what. I want to share. Well, what do you want to share? What do you got to share? And what do you feel inside you're worthy of sharing? Right? Some people don't share other people's stuff. They don't even share their own stuff. And I think there's an ability, just like anything, to exercise that sharing muscle. And it's really about awareness because we always talk a smile is a share, right? Cost you nothing, right, Harvey? And you're being proactive about sharing. Some people got to be shared to share, right? You just gave me $10. I'm going to have to find something of equal or more value to share with you, or I can pretty much count the end of sharing has just happened. right? When you take and don't return, getting more taking is not in the horizon. And I think the key is you reflect who you are by how you share. You know, there's people that give you a simple flower and it breaks your heart. And there's people drive up with a Bentley and you could care less, right? So it's the intent, it's the delivery of sharing. You know, too many people do the act instead of the action,
Mhm.
right? They just contribute, gone, instead of making it somewhat of a ritual, somewhat of an opportunity. Because, you know, sharing to me is like packaging a gift. You can just throw some at somebody and they'll get it, and maybe it has value, but you can explain it. What if you gave an artifact or a family heirloom, right? Wouldn't you want to tell the story that went with it? That my grandfather got this in the war or whatever. But before we jump into more of us, let's run through all the people really quick, because you know it's so important to be recognized and be heard and seen. Matt's here, love the flags just like Harvey. Kelly's always here, especially when Christy's here. And you got to check out Kelly and Christy's awesome journey. It's another way of extending your thought and stretching. You know, what we're doing is we're taking a word, stretching it big enough for everybody to jump into it, and then redefine it, and then reapply it, right? And then maybe you found out I'm going to share a little bit more than I did before because now it's top of mind awareness. So we've got MD here from Bangladesh. We've got Anjan. Greetings. Great to see you. You've been a regular this week. So with Ashif, and Ashif is offering so many great quotes and insights. Can't thank you enough, because it's the community that makes the community. You know, we're just facilitators, moderators, and bringing people's voices to the stage whenever possible. Okay, well, we talked about technology. Sahid, thank you for showing up today. Wendy's here. Wendy's a great gal. Had some great comments yesterday. Here we go with Peter. Hi, Harvey. It's the first time I've seen you live. Well, great to have you, Peter Hughes. You know, always new people. We're here to really, really give you some quality takeaways. Good morning to all from my side. Wendy's sending hearts. Great to start out with that. Sharing is caring, according to Christy. And who doesn't want to care more? And who doesn't want to be cared for more if it's done in the best of ways? You know, and I think when you look at caring, it's also about, some people look at it as sympathy. I mean, sharing. I'm giving somebody who needs it versus looking at like I'm giving somebody something I want to value them for, you know? And I think sharing without judgment goes a long way. So with that said, Harvey, what's your thoughts at this point on sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I just wanted to take this back a little bit, because I didn't say welcome back to Christy, and she's been on her travels, and I wanted to say that I joined relatively late because I'm here hiding in a hotel trying to do this today. But I hope you had an amazing time. I can't wait to hear all about it. But it's lovely to have you safely back. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Thank you.
But
I'm no longer coughing.
You're definitely hearing our thoughts on Fridays.
Absolutely. It was, first of all, I want to say hi to Peter. It's really nice that Peter's joined us. I love Peter. He's a lovely guy. And I think it's really interesting that Peter's chosen to join us today, because Peter's somebody who shares a lot on LinkedIn. He shares a lot of his story, a lot of his tougher times. And he shares it for good reason, because when you read about how he gets through it and who he's become, it's inspiring. It inspires me. You know, so he's gone through some difficult times and he's come out the other side. None of us are perfect, but you know, I admire the how he shares things, and I always love reading about it. So it's lovely to have him here, and I think he's a great example of sharing. I think it will. Someone said to me today about the fact that some people don't talk to each other enough. It was, in fact, it was somebody on LinkedIn who had put up something about the fact that they were cancer free. And of course, I celebrated that with them. It was Paul, actually. His name's Paul. But he was talking about how particularly men quite often don't talk about things of maybe of a sensitive nature, an intimate nature, or to do with emotions and things, and how it's really important to be able to talk to each other, and share these things. And I thought it was such an important message to get out there, that it's okay to just go to your friends and ask them something that might feel maybe a bit personal, or you might feel a bit embarrassed, and just don't be. It doesn't matter. You just go and ask them. And I thought that was a really important thing. I like what Ashif said about sharing compassion. Ashif is an excellent contributor, and really always appreciate his comments, because put some really inspiring little words in there. He could probably come up with the word of the week, actually, Ashif. That's his job. And I also love the expression "sharing is caring," because I absolutely think it is. Sometimes it's tough to. I was saying to my wife recently, we've got this amazingly open and honest relationship, and it causes arguments between us, but it's also okay, because we're honest with each other. And I'd much rather just be honest, disagree about something. I think sometimes people don't share things through the fear of perhaps upsetting somebody or something like that. And I get that, but I think also it's really important just to openly share. And there's some great lessons, I think, that even I've learned this week from some fantastic people here. Wow, there's loads more comments coming in here too as well. Peter's just said men are too concerned about repercussions, I guess. Yeah, maybe that's exactly it, or embarrassment, or whatever it is. And it's not just men, but I think we're perhaps more guilty than others. So it's really worthwhile to just keep sharing stuff, positive or negative. But it's great to have everybody here, and I'm loving the comments. I'm now going to have a little scroll down, see what's there.
So Christy, what are you thinking about the interaction we're getting and the feedback from the audience relating to sharing and what Harvey just said?
Well, I'm with Peter. I think a certain generation, ours, men and before, men weren't allowed to share. War, they'd come home from war, they couldn't share. If they shared any kind of emotion, it shows that they're weak. And because of that, they carry everything. They would carry everything. I see a change with COVID, through COVID and everything, and with the mental health being not a stigma anymore. People are sharing their feelings. Some people will say, well, you're oversharing. There's no oversharing, because whatever story or experience or gift you have, you're allowing somebody else to resonate to it. So when we're sharing, we're giving somebody a gift that is coming from our heart. And having, like, I share my knowledge with the job seekers, and with confidence and everything like that. I don't even think about it anymore. I dance with my skeletons. I grew up where my mother especially would be like, oh, you can't tell the neighbors all this stuff, let's just put it underneath the rug, and then it's just a bumpy thing. I was always sharing. I was always sharing the drama, the goodness, the life, everything, because I believe in just not holding it in. And when I would hold it in, I'd have those depression times. But when we realize that when we share a story, when we share a gift, when we share the acceptance of listening to somebody without judgment, because that's a lot of reasons why people don't share. They're afraid that they're going to get judged because we're in a society, we're in a world that everybody judges. But if you just dance with your skeletons and say, this is who I am, and I want to share with you my gifts, my experience, my love, my thoughts, then it opens up it opens up those walls that everybody sits in a box of belief systems that you're not supposed to say these things, you're not supposed to share these things. And again, it goes back to men struggle more, which I've seen. I mean, I don't think I saw my father cry until I was in college. It just emotions, men are not allowed to have emotions, but now we're allowed to have emotions and we're allowed to share those. So
I think that's great. And you know, I think, you know, to what both of you have really brought to the surface is really sharing time.
mhm.
Too many people look at it as an exchange of a possession or a service. You know, let me provide you with this, whatever. But most people don't share their time with someone. The reason why people don't communicate is they're not with each other to communicate. And then the other thing about sharing is doing like things at the same time together, because then it's not like, where have you been the last week and where have you been and what do you know, you don't get that gap if you're spending enough time with people. You know, if you're talking to people every day where nothing becomes a surprise, like the question becomes, how long did you know about this? You know, and if someone said, I just found out 2 hours ago, it's like, hey, thanks for telling me. I found out 2 months ago. What have we been talking about since then? So I think time is important. I think delivery is important. How you share, if you're going in frantic and with your hair on fire, that's what people are going to start feeling the moment you tell them something. But if you really go into it like, I trust you and I think there's something important you can help me with, okay, at that point you're showing a little respect. But here's another thing: you can go in and not go all the way in. If you're starting to get, like, you know, if you start tippy toeing into a subject and you get really turned off real quick, hey, you know, you're kind of not in most favorable ground. So I think almost every word we come up with, it's how it's applied, how it's delivered, what's your purpose. You know, just to shock people, that's not a good reason to share. You know, to bring people down is not a good reason to share. You know, so let's get back into uh, Peter says, people of our generation were also not allowed to be different. For example, until 2000, it was illegal to be gay in the British forces. You know, and you know, I think there's so many important points that now technology has taken away the barriers, the permissions, the layers to get your voice heard. You know, you used to have to go up the ladder, you know, if you wanted approval or if you wanted to say something, and they would tell you what you could or couldn't say, you know. And now with a network of friends and a community of support, there's no reason not to share. But the reason to share is, what is the audience going to get? You know, there's so much tragedy out there that there's not enough time in an hour to run through it. So where there is triumph from tragedy. Like I say, no one cares if you got hit by a bus. I mean, they do in a way, but they really care how you made it to the Olympics in 8 years right after that. You know, that's the story, because what we're really sharing is inspiration, you know, support. And after a while, the question in your mind should be, why aren't I acting faster on these things? Why don't I share more? You know, that's because every day you set your day with your schedule. What are you going to do today with your time? So, Harvey, why don't you pick it up from here? If you see any great comments, feel free to point them out.
Yeah. I've been scribbling away. I always like to scribble down these things. First of all, I've got to say, Christy, I do like the expression "dance with my skeletons." I've just written that down just for me. Really, I like that one.
My family does not.
Although I've got a picture now in my mind of us all dancing with skeletons. It's a strange picture, but I get the metaphor and I like that one. Yeah, I think Peter's made a good point about being not allowed to be different in a certain generation. I mean, as a child, I always sort of bucked that trend. It didn't serve me particularly well, but when I was at school, I was always the one who was a bit different. So I was always the one who was picked on, you know. And but I sort of refused to sort of go along with the herd, I suppose, in that time. But it was much harder then. You know, people respect now differences and appreciate people's different perspectives. But yeah, you know, sort of 30 years ago, it definitely wasn't like that. I was thinking as well, something somebody said about a safe space, I think, but I can't remember who said it, but I think LinkedIn provides this safe space. And I think if you've got a community or if you've got a safe space, it encourages you to share. I think sometimes sharing can be sort of, you share a little bit, you see how it goes. If you get a positive response, you get a bit braver. And then suddenly you'll find that you can share anything and everybody when you've got that safe community to be able to share with. I thought, Don, what you said actually about sharing actual physical time together, that really resonated with me. You know, I think especially when my children sort of come over for the weekend, you know, I love spending time with them, and that's what they want from me as well. I think, you know, that's what a friend wants or a family member wants, is spending quality time. So I think, you know, it's really relevant to say that sharing time is really important. I wanted just to say hello to Lillian, because I saw that she came on, and hello to Omar. I really want to try and catch Omar's game show. He does a game show, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. But I think it's on at 3 a.m, my time. So it would be, it's a tricky one. I'll catch it on the replay. But Omar's a lovely chap. I think it's really interesting the direction the conversation's gone this week, actually. You know, we talk about sharing, but I think also we're talking about the restrictions in certain circumstances for sharing. You know, I remember an expression, man up. Terrible expression, you know, because it related to if you were showing emotions that you should not do that. And, you know, thank goodness that's changed, you know, and we can show our emotions and we can talk to people because it's so much healthier. Even if you're trying to hold back on saying something because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Even that, I definitely used to do that. As a younger man, I definitely used to resist saying something or try and think of something in a completely different way or not say it to avoid upsetting somebody or to avoid an argument. I was definitely guilty of that. I'm not anymore. I guess that comes with age, but I definitely used to do it. And the result was that I would go along very rarely having an argument with anybody. Well, I don't now really, but I would very rarely have an argument with anybody, but nothing would ever really be resolved or challenged, you know, and it's so much better fun and healthier to say what's in your heart. And, you know, to a degree, I've still got a bit of a filter, but I think it's healthy to find that balance, I think, you know, in sharing and putting things in the right way. And I still do that. Still worth pausing a moment and think, what's the best way of saying this? But it's still worth saying it if it's in your thoughts. So, yeah, that's what I think.
Christy?
Well, I'm with you, Harvey. I think maturity learned how I don't vomit everything that's coming out of my head. I learned how to be a little bit more tactful and also to pause, like, how do I need to say this? Because it goes back to understanding how they're going to react. How would I react if somebody said this to me? So it's maturity. I mean, it takes us a while. Some get it a little bit sooner than I did.
I mean, I'm not that mature. I'm going to have to add that in a lot of senses, but
No, I mean, and I'm with you, like with my husband and I, it's like you've got that open communication. And if you don't share your feelings, if you hold it back, then there's no relationship. And that's the communication. You're sharing, having a conversation, you're sharing. I mean, you're sharing going back and forth. You're sharing the thoughts. You're sharing your ideas. You're sharing your feelings. And you might end up realizing that once you started being dancing with your skeletons, you might realize that this person understands you more, better than you did before. Um, I want to say that there was a comment about tell all the sharing your problems can prevent a lot can prevent a lot of misunderstanding and suicidal tendencies. So when people, and I'm a big advocate on mental health and depression, not having depression, but when people feel safe, so when you share, you want to feel safe to be able to share their feelings, and it goes back to that men couldn't do this for so long, then they don't get into that dark rabbit hole of the depression and building up all that stuff. So to be able to, you mentioned, Harvey, about how LinkedIn is a safe space. It is, but it isn't. It depends on, you do have to. I see that there's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of bullies, and you have to understand that we're all behind a keyboard, and some of those keyboard trolls tend to feel like they need to make you feel worse to make them feel better, and that's just humans. But when you share, there'll be somebody out there that's going to want to hear your struggles, to hear your champions, to hear your question. So if you can't feel that you can speak your truth, if you can't speak, then why do we even have sharing? I mean, why are we even here? What do
Well,
you think?
I think, we're bringing up so many good points because it's not just defining the word, but understanding the word. And I think with sharing, what's so important is people can elicit sharing in others by asking questions, right? By making an observation. I see you're really out of breath. Is there something going on? Or I see you're crying, right? Is there something I can help you with? And unless that person comes up to that person's going to be alone with their misery. And somebody could say, well, thank you for being so kind, but I'm fine. And you would say, okay, not a problem. Or you would say, I've got a minute or two. I mean, whatever. And at a certain point now they feel like there's an honest, trusting person who's interested. And I think the hardest thing about being in a funk, and that's putting it mildly for a lot of people, is the loop that never ends in your head. And until you share it with somebody and you break that continuous, whatever it is that's making you feel this way, could be embarrassment, you name it, failure that you think, because in the moment, it is the moment, but the moment's not the future. And if you got somebody who can distract you from that moment, take you out of that area for a while and let it rest, it's a lot easier to come back to. Or maybe you decide you just want to be with that person who now freed you from that self-imposed situation. And there's a saying, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you do something. And at a certain point, when you say, I can't do any worse than what I'm thinking, I'm where I'm at. You know, I always thought if someone's going to jump off a building and they had 10 grand in their Amex, why not go to Hawaii for the week and then think about jumping, right? I mean, you're not going to use that credit anyways. Maybe a week in Hawaii could make a difference, and I think that's the sharing, is knowing there's a could here, not a guarantee. And you know what? Sometimes you're so sick of what you're riding in, you just want to get in somebody else's car for a while, So what do you think, Harvey? You got some winners here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just going through them all. There's so many good points. Now, I'm going to attempt to pronounce his name, and really forgive me if I get this wrong, but Anjon Banerjee. Now, I may have got that wrong or right, but made a really interesting analogy about shearing an animal. Shearing and sharing being similar words. And it was quite early on that the comment was made, but when you shear the wool off the edge of an animal, you're sort of lessening the burden. And I thought that's quite a good analogy, because when you share something, you're lessening the burden for sometimes not just for the person who's suffering by not sharing, but by the other person, especially in something like a friendship or a relationship. If someone's seeing you honestly sharing something, it's making them feel better that you can talk to them. So I thought that was a really interesting one. I was looking also, I just wanted to say hello to Rita and to Dean, because they and Andrea, they joined a little bit later. It's nice to see you all. Andrea said that, and a similar thing to what we said earlier, that boys are told not to cry. And I certainly hope that's not the case anymore, but it certainly used to be. I always encourage all of our boys to show their emotions in whatever way they want to. I think there's certainly a generation where that's tricky. I was just reading what Baz has put there on the screen. Love the haters. If they have no time to comment, they are the ones who are in pain. Ask the quest to address. They're reaching out subconsciously and seem to feel. I agree. I agree with that. Rita said something. That's what I was going to pick up on. I really like this. Rita said, always ask the second question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I really like that one. That's a take home for me. Because if you go up to someone and you just say, you okay? And they say, yeah, I'm all right. And they're not, but if you then the second question was, look, I've got 10 minutes, let's, have a coffee, and just try and get to the bottom of it. I just think that's a really great take home to, you obviously don't want to hassle somebody if they don't want to talk, but I think having the interest to, sort of genuinely delve a bit deeper, I think that's really valid. Dom, put Matt's comment up. What did Matt say? Matt said a good thing, but I didn't write it down. Yeah. Definitely struggle sharing my emotions, even with loved ones. Plus chocolate. That's definitely not shared. Well, yeah, absolutely. I think Matt's right. I think sometimes it's easier to share things with people you don't know. I think that's probably the reason people have therapists. It's easier to sort of talk to someone who's perhaps neutral, maybe. But then, we have this. When I said that LinkedIn is a safe space, and Christy, you picked up on that, and rightly so. It's not a generic safe place. It's a safe space if you pick your community. I think that's probably more what should be said. But if you do pick a set of, if you had 1,000 connections, you probably talk to 20 of them or 50 of them on a regular basis, of which you probably get on with maybe 80% of those. Well, there's your safe space there, or if it doesn't feel the right space for you, build another mini communities. Like sort of mini communities or little bubbles. But even though I do try and share chocolate, Matt, that is a tricky one. Although I will say this, there was some chocolates out on the side, some lint balls. There was only about 7 or 8 left, and I started eating them. and there was one left, and I thought I'll save that one for my wife. She did eat the first. She ate the first lot.
Okay.
She ate half. Then there was about 7 left, but yeah, only one left.
Proof of sharing. So, Christy, what's your new thoughts on sharing? Baz makes an interesting point here.
I love what Baz said.
Situation I confront.
Yeah. And I also like what Asha, sorry, Ash, share with me, please. I'm curious. So a lot of people listen, but they don't listen. It's called being active listening. To literally share your space with that person when they're talking, to let them feel comfortable that they can just talk to you and know that you're listening to them. You're not asking them to fix anything. You just need to be heard, because a lot of people, and a lot of people I work with, they're in their head, and their head's just telling them a lot of goobly gop, and they just need to have it voiced out, to also understand that maybe what they're going through or what they're envisioning and everything, once they say it out loud to somebody who's actually listening, sharing their space and saying, hey, here's your blank canvas. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you're thinking. And I'm here for you. I'm sharing my time. I'm sharing my empathy. I'm sharing my space for you. Now, going back to what Baz said, but the haters, hey, I love my haters. I do not cater to my haters, but my haters show me that I am successful because I'm rent-free in your head and behind your keyboard. But to understand that not everybody thinks that way, and they take these words that people share on LinkedIn to heart, and people they don't even know. And that's where I tend to worry about people, especially now, because the mental health with the job seekers and everything is spiraling down still. But and Harvey is big on this. I'm here, we're here for you. We're sharing our time for free because we don't want anything from you except to share our time with. And the 3 of us, and Kelly and Adrian, everybody that's on the show, we do this because we care. We share our time, we care. And that's a trend that needs to be taken up, where people actually do it sincerely.
Yeah, I think that what we have is a huge opportunity for duplication through each other, right? If we know what to do and our goal is to get something done, then do we really have the right goal if we're not doing anything? Or do we truly believe we know what we're doing, right? Because if everything's right and your direction is where you want to go, there should be no hesitation for getting in some vehicle and moving forward towards it. So, I think it's all about honesty with yourself first, and here's another trick, if there's a trick to sharing. If you want to share, ask somebody to share. And the easiest way to look at it, if you say, hi, where you're from, right? And if they say Erie, Pennsylvania, they're going to say, where are you from? That's the key, is once you ask, you just get here today? Yeah. Did you just get here? Or what you're going to hear is someone give you a look like I'm not talking to you, or stay away from me. Either way, you're going to learn something about the person next to you. And if you do it in a friendly way, because, you take a smile, like Wendy says, and add a greeting to it, like smile and say good morning. Say good morning and smile. I was taught not thank you is not enough. You should tell the person the reason. So when I get off a flight, I thank you to the pilot for such a safe flight, because they never hear those extra 3, 4 words, and you become more meaningful. And what I learned in sales that never failed me is make a friend and then make a sale. Get to know the person, find out what's really exciting, because slowly, when I had my first store, people would come in and I'd always go out of my way to notice what was important to them. If they had a huge belt buckle, I knew that had to be important to put that thing on every day. Or if they had a beautiful pickup truck that was all, suited up, that was something. So not to get too far into the past and more into the future, Linda says, I am glad after young people have been exposed to isolation and no communication, a movement of a happiness class in college, now even high school, and being adapted to online to help people gain access to relationships because of things shown and shared. That is so cool to have a happiness class, because that's something in the old days, people just accepted there's going to be happiness.
Right.
If you went to some relative's birthday party, you knew there was going to be well-wishers and there's going to be cake and ice cream and presents and some little kid who's going to, be so overjoyed by the moment and the adulation. And now happiness is like the scarcest thing in the world to most people. And I think if people have to relearn what it is to be happy, how to relearn how to get happy and how to make somebody else happy, and that's why I think when you help so many people today, it means so much, because there's so much help that's needed and so little that's genuinely given for the good of the other person, versus a way of just kind of catching you into something. Deborah's here. I haven't seen Deborah's name. I love this. We share our time and we care, heart-centered service. The word's getting around, and it is going to be the cool thing to do. To have someone say, hey, how many people did you help today with your message? How often did you share your voice with others? And I think that's what we're talking about, is sharing what you already got that people need. And it just takes a little planning, right? If someone said, share 3 posts today, you know how long that would take you? About 20 seconds a post. Maybe 30 if you put a little time into a comment, right? So what's a minute and a half for 3 people that you want to support, that you want to promote, that people are on the same journey as you? Who's going to help them while you're waiting for someone to help you? And those are questions. So Harvey, getting pretty deep into this today. Have a problem, 10% know it, 99% are extremely pleased. Share what? Okay.
Yeah, I think there's amazing comments, and I'm getting so many takeaways myself here. I quite like as Sheaf said, listening is pure caring. I think that's really relevant, and in that case, my cat really cares, because I never hear him talk. Well, actually, no, yeah, I do hear him talking at 4 a.m. May not say words exactly, but actually it does highlight that, because sometimes when you sort of sit there with an animal and they're great company, people often say that about animals, they're great company. Now, why are they great company? Because they're amazing listeners. You sit there, they will listen to you all day. And there's perhaps a lesson to be learned from our lovely furry friends. But I quite liked as well about that happiness class as well. Who said about the happiness?
That was Linda.
Linda. Yeah, I think that should be. I mean, I know schools and colleges are changing things around a little bit, but I think education just needs a bit of a shake-up. But if even at school, if a question was asked, how many people have you helped today? Just if the focus was on, how many people have you made happy today? I mean, my little boy especially, all my children, they love helping people. We've all got that in common. We just really enjoy helping people for no other reason apart from it's a nice thing to do. And they've definitely got that from me. And spending time with people. I think Ashif said about creating dialogue. And, you know, if you're curious, who said about being curious? That was a good one. I like that. I wrote it down, I think. But share with me, I'm curious. Ashif said that. And I think, Christy, you picked up on that as well. That's a really nice question to ask. You know, just exactly that. Share with me, please. I'm curious, because it shows a lot of care. You know, and you know, a little pause after that, you'll get quite a lot back, and that person can really perhaps share what they're. You spend a bit of time listening to somebody after you ask that question. Oh, that's reminded me. Prop time.
Okay, can't forget the prop.
Yeah, of course I've got it. Even though I'm here in a hotel in the middle of London, and on my dodgy Wi-Fi on my phone, but I had to bring a prop. I haven't got a hat, so I had to bring a prop. And my prop today is this little box. It's got something inside it, so it's extra exciting. It was my grandfather's. I'm going to show you. Hold on. That's a watch. And it's inscribed on the back. And I've taken my glasses off to read this. And it says, presented to R.W. Tuck with best wishes from his colleagues at Joseph Lucas, 3rd of October, 1941. And the reason that I picked a watch, apart from this one that has some sentimental value, is I think the most important, and we've discussed it a lot today anyway, but the most important thing about sharing is sharing your time, whether that's time to comment or time to look at somebody else's post, or even more important, time to spend with actual people in real life. And I think this watch was given, it says from his colleagues, you know, and it was given, I hope, as a sort of celebration of the time. It was a retirement gift from my grandfather. I never met him, but I hope it was a celebration of the time they spent together. And I think that that's exactly it. We need to sort of celebrate, promote spending time together and sharing. The Care Bears. I remember the Care Bears. What happened to those guys? They always shared in different ways. What if we did that in real life? Yes, absolutely, Lillian. We should all be Care Bears. You're right. You're right. That's a really good point. Maybe I can get a Care Bear T-shirt next time. Like,
that'll be a prop.
Yeah, absolutely. What's that? God, that's a really good one as well about food. That reminds me, because quite often you'll go on holiday and you'll have some liqueur or a drink, and it tastes amazing, and you think, well, I'm going to buy a bottle of this, bring it home, and recreate the holiday when I get home, and it never works. And it doesn't work because it wasn't the drink. It was spending time with people, and it was the sunshine and the smells and the whole thing. You can't, unfortunately, bring that back in a bottle, even though it would be good to do that.
Well, you know, it's so nice when halfway through the conversation we start to reflect on earlier thoughts, memories, to Harvey's point, props, because, you know, honoring like his grandfather creates longevity for his grandfather's presence, meaning, values, you know, and that's a gift people give, because it's like Harvey just alluded to. It's the whole environment that something shines in, right? And you're hoping it was a celebration. You're hoping it was festive. You're hoping it was the best night of people's lives. And that's what they also gave you, as a mystery. You know, a lot of people know all too well where they are and what they're involved in. You know, when they can start living vicariously through others or through others in the past. And, you know, I think the thing is pride has a lot to do with sharing. And if you're not too proud to share, and it's not because you're worried what people are going to think, it's like you're going to blow the fake image you had that probably everybody already knows about. But you know, if you said somebody, "Hey, I'm behind on my mortgage and I need $1,000," well, your net worth just went down in everybody's head. Now the question is, are they there with you because of your money or because of you?
Right.
Right? And what are you there with them for, their money or for them? And I think when your voice gets minimized, it goes into hiding because in a way it's ashamed you're not letting it out, you know, that you're not giving yourself that freedom. And, you know, even rejection isn't bad. Again, it's how it's given. Was it constructive? You know, when someone says, you know, I love your idea, but I don't have time right now, that's nothing negative, it's just a fact. And the key is then who do you talk to next? If one doesn't work with two, with three, I think to Baz's point of asking four questions and taking your time, you know, and letting people allow you to share with them the way they want to be shared too, you know. So what's your thoughts? We're going on the 50-minute line right now, Harvey. Great comments.
Yeah, there is some great comments. I was just picking up on Lillian and Linda's conversation about sharing food and recipes, and I like that one as well. I really like that one because recipes, not only recipes as a metaphor, but even if you actually think about a recipe, I mean, when each of our boys went off to university, we did a handmade book of recipes that we either did as a family or my dad did one, and we all had an input into this book. But those recipes did change over the years because they were shared. My dad shared me a recipe for apple crumble. He added little bits when it was shared by his mum. You know, I've added little bits. Secret to a good apple crumble: a little bit of butter on the top and some sugar. Just thought I'd share that as well. But I think, you know, I think cooking and, you know, recipes, you know, we've often used cooking and recipes or gardening as great metaphors. And I think cooking is, you know, I love cooking together with my wife. Sometimes we argue about it, but we also have great fun cooking together. And then it's enjoyable to sit there and eat the meal you've cooked together. You know, so it was interesting. People started to get into, I think, gummy bears and sweets as well. I bet you we could open up a big conversation as to what your favorite bag of sweets to share is. Mine's Revels. Do you have Revels in America, actually? It's a good point. Probably don't know
what is it for those uninitiated?
Oh, okay, so it's chocolate, but they're all got different centers, and you never know what you're going to get when you pick it out. So it's a bit of a surprise. I have to send you some Revels. Not everybody.
I guess it depends on what's in the center. I've seen so many boxes of chocolates with thumbs pushed through it to see what's inside of it. And you know, in some boxes they will show you the plan, like what
That's
each
true.
one of them is in the top.
It's starting to go a little bit Forrest Gump now, isn't it, with box of chocolates?
Well, you know what's cool about it, if you look at it, look at Valentine's Day, right? That's all about sharing candy, sharing love, sharing hearts. You know, there's a day specifically set aside for people you love. To send little, remember those little, maybe they still have it, little hard candies and hearts that would have a little saying on it, you know, wonderful things. But so, Christy, we're kind of wrapping it up. What's your thoughts now on sharing and what the audience has provided today?
Well, going back to what you said, Don, about sharing, are the people there for your money? Or are they there because they sincerely want? We have to understand that when we share, we can't, let's say we have money or we're doing something for them. I've learned that I just share. And if they take it and run and then I never hear from them again and it's made their life so much better, that's all I can do over getting my ego into it, going, well, you could at least said thank you, you
Mhm.
know, because a lot of people don't know manners these days, but it just understanding that when you share, you're doing it you're doing it without your ego. You're doing it, for me at least, I do it for not wanting something in return except their happiness. They're, getting something from it to make them more happy, um, or to grow. So, I mean, I share all day long. I just got 2 messages, people going, can I call you? Can I call you? It's like, yeah, I mean, my time is everybody's time right now. And because I have to share, it's the trust thing of when people trust you, they'll come to you and they'll continue to ask you because they know that you're an active listener and you're not going to judge them. No, I love sharing. I sometimes a little bit too much since I dance with my skeletons.
Well, actually, when I reach out, in most cases, to have a Zoom call, it is for the purpose, I say, of learning and sharing. And that sets the tone what your expectation is or what your goal is. It's not to sell, it's not to do anything. I just want to learn and share basically what's in front. And usually the question then becomes, what are you looking for? Is a good way to start. I mean, what are you on LinkedIn for? What's your goal this year? And that'll frame things in your mind to say, well, here's what I can share that's relevant. I think relevancy has to come into sharing. Do you give someone who just ate a big meal a dessert, or do you look for someone who is yet to eat? And I think that's key, is knowing what they need, what they want, not what you think they want, because most of it is done either with prejudice or superficial judgment, right? How many people walked into a Mercedes dealership that were millionaires, looked like bums, and nobody would talk to them? And everybody was there because of a car, not because of a look, right? It was supposed to be transactional. And that's why people have to ask themselves, who am I sharing with? Why am I sharing with this person? And what do I expect as a best result from this? Because that should give you 3 qualifications to share. Because the worst thing to do is share and get nailed right after it with disrespect or criticism, and that'll make you hide even further in your hole. Another thing is, the sooner you get up, the sooner you share with somebody else, the better chance you can forget about who you just shared with, because your last memory be the one that you carry with you until a new one replaces it. So, wrapping up, we'll have Harvey and then Christy, final thoughts. And I want to thank the audience. You've been great. I mean, so many wonderful comments and thoughts that, it's a blessing that I can have the benefit of people like Christy, Harvey, that are taking time out of their day, and everybody here to really bolster everybody every day in a lot of little different ways. Harvey's making notes. Somebody else should be making connections. Whatever it is, get value and share. With that, Harvey, final words. We'll get you out of your secret agent spot.
Oh yeah, it's been really good today. I really enjoyed it, and it's lovely to be back with everybody and with you, Christy, as well. But I'm going to go back and have a little look through the comments, because there's been loads of take homes from me today. But I think my final thoughts here is, I'm here for you. If there's anything that you want to share with me, my time is certainly one of those things that I try and give as much as I can, and want to continue to do that as well. But one of the things that I was going to do, and I think this is probably worthwhile thinking about. So, as people know, on a Sunday, I try and help people out who are looking for a job. Well, this Sunday, I had a plan of every single person that was on my post. I'm going to go onto their profile and I'm going to add some endorsements. I'm going to endorse them all, because it won't take me that long to do, but to have endorsements is going to help people who are looking for jobs, and it's a way of sharing some kindness and consideration for other people. So I think maybe if everybody took that idea and just took 10 minutes out of their time and had a collection of people and did some endorsements, it would make for a good thing to do and a great community. So I think my final thoughts is everyone keep sharing in every single possible way, because it can only get better if you do that.
Sounds good, Christy.
What comes to mind, again, sharing is great. I'm always here. I'm a DM away. And I know a lot of people are in fear of sharing because, well, if I share, you got that, well, they'll go share my story. I always understand that those who are truly wanting to be there for you, it's not their story to share. You share, it stays between that conversation. It's your story to share to other people. And I think this is where a lot of people get in the fear. Like, I'm not going to share because, and I did a post last night about the book of people or whatever, how people will take somebody else's book and share all that. However, they keep their book to themselves. They don't share anything about themselves. Understand, when people share their personal struggles or whatever, it's their story to share. It's not your story to share with others unless they give you permission.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, I'm all about sharing. Sharing is caring.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Christy and Harvey and the rest of our community. And, that is something that takes away some of the excuses, is the knowledge that people are openly soliciting people to share with them, to reach out to them. So no one can say, well, there was nobody there and nobody I thought of, and I don't think people would invite people to something if they weren't going to bring value and make someone feel better. So not only is it an invitation for help, it's comfortable help. It's whatever you're comfortable sharing is what you should share. And sharing gets sharing. To Harvey's point, if you recommend people, I'm pretty much sure 90% of the time you'll get recommendations. So if you're looking to build that up, it takes like 2 seconds. How are they in education? How are they in planning? Whatever it is. And if you want to take it one more step, is do a recommendation. Write 7-8 lines. You'll get a recommendation back, or you'll have given one. Again, the question always becomes, if I do this versus doing what I'm doing or doing something I was thinking about doing, which is going to get me further to my goal and further away, right? If I'm going to just go bowling when I could have maybe spent an hour helping 30 people that I already know, there's a distinction. Strangers are still strangers and friends are friends. Start with your friends. Support the people who support you and are with you first. And when you have more time, expand outside of it. So I'm so excited by today with sharing, because it adds so many more dimensions to the word and to the action than most people, that, again, I think people take for granted. And I think taking things for granted is the best way to stay away from gratitude. Right? If everything you have was reborn again today to allow you to have it, right? There's new gratitude, not for what you didn't get yet, but what you already have achieved. So with that said, have a lovely day. Come back in 23 hours. Tomorrow we're going to have Leslie Nidick. She's been here before, and she's going to be helping out on Saturdays. And then Sunday we've got Sarah Dawkins. And then Monday we've got 2 doctors, Dr. Marilyn Scott and Dr. Joanne. So that should be a fun time. So it only gets better. Start sharing. Tell us your stories when you get done.